I want to welcome in our all-star political panel on this Monday morning. Glad to have everybody back. Our White House correspondent, Emerald Robinson, is with us down in the nation's capital. Lieutenant Governor of New York, Betsy McCoy, is here. The host of Stacy on the Right, Stacy Washington, back with us on this Monday morning. And political analyst Mark Halperin is here as well. Mark, good morning. Emerald, I'd like to start with you. Trump advisor Jason Miller is now dismissing reports that we talked about this last week, that President Trump is not going to create a Patriot Party, and if he does run again in 4 years, it will be as a Republican.
Yeah, and also you've seen them do a shift, according to Jason Miller, from talking about maybe that other party to looking more at election integrity and establishing an entity to evaluate that, because as we know, that's one of the major concerns amongst Republicans. And you even hear a lot of them saying they're not going to come out and vote in future elections because they question them. So this is something that if he does want to run again in 2024, he seriously has to deal with. He's also now apparently very focused on his quote unquote enemies list. That's something that came out over the weekend. And there's a lot of names we know are definitely on that list. Well, we know after impeachment.
Yeah, we know he plans to campaign in Georgia pretty actively in a couple years. By the way, while you bring that up, 2022. Yeah, exactly. Brad Raffensperger, the governor down there as well. Brian Kemp. Yeah. Mark, Sarah Sanders, she might be the bellwether for Trumpism in 2 years. She is going to announce today that she's running for governor in the great state of Arkansas. Your thoughts?
Well, she's certainly going to get a lot of attention, but there are two other candidates in the race, including the Lieutenant Governor Tim Griffin, a former member of Congress who has a lot of support in Republican politics. So if this ends up being a contested primary and with, as you discussed, the president now focused more on Republican politics than Patriot Party politics, I think this will be a great test to see how much influence does Donald Trump have in the party. Sarah Sanders is her own person. Her father was, of course, governor there, but there's no doubt she'll be seen as the Trump candidate. She wins that primary, that's going to send a signal to a lot of folks that Donald Trump is indeed still the dominant figure in the party.
Yeah. Stacy, your thoughts?
Mark hits the nail on the head perfectly as usual. The fact is that Sarah was next to the president for 3 years. She's written a book. She's done all of the things prerequisite to running for, a state office. And she's so well-versed in what's going on in America right now. I met her just a couple of times at the Eisenhower Executive Office Complex, and that woman has a personality, a 10,000-watt smile. She's a great mom, fantastic wife, and she's very well known. Her name ID is like 110%. So I hope she runs. I think she would win. The president would obviously campaign for her, and it would be so fun to have something good going on.
Betsy, it's funny, when I would watch Sarah Sanders' press conferences, it's almost like I'm watching the exact same thing right now with Jen Psaki. They're just the exact same. The press conferences are they're like mirror images of each other at the White House.
No, actually they're not, because Sarah Sanders used to get very tough questions.
Right.
Her questioners were very argumentative, and Jen Psaki has to worry about what kind of ice cream Joe Biden's going to have for after dinner tonight. Very different types of questions. On the other issue, though, Donald Trump, we have to remember that in politics, 4 years is an eternity. And whatever his long-range plans are, discussing a rival party to the Republican Party would be, let's say, really ill-advised right now when he's counting on Republican votes in the Senate to prevent him from being convicted.
Mark, you were mentioning something about the president a little bit earlier there. I know right now in the state of California, there's a petition for Governor Gavin Newsom, and I'm trying to get the updated number. I know it's over 1 million signatures right now. The threshold is just above that for his actual removal from office. Do you think there's any chance this happens?
There is. California has a history of this. Gray Davis, the Democratic governor, replaced by Arnold Schwarzenegger after a recall process. And while we think of it as a blue state, it's got this, the sense that if it was a country, it had the 7th largest country in the world, and it has a lot of angry conservatives. So this is going to be interesting to see as Gavin Newsom tries to balance continuing to govern the state with fighting off what could be an historic effort to try to get him out of there.
And if I could, Rob, I would also just build on what Mark said, not just angry conservatives. I was just there in December. A lot of angry Democrats as well, not really liking the way that the governor's handled the coronavirus crisis and some of the hypocrisies he's exhibited.
Yeah, and it's funny with the coronavirus right now, Stacy, case numbers are at an all-time high, yet we've heard from Lori Lightfoot in Chicago, Charlie Baker in Massachusetts, even Andrew Cuomo. Even Andrew Cuomo in New York is like, hey, maybe we should start reopening restaurants because once this whole thing is done, whenever that is, there's going to be nothing for people to come back to.
Oh, Rob, I wish it was just what you explained, that they were just seeing the light, that coronavirus is like a flu or any other severe cold and we're going to have to deal with it. That's the truth. But the fact is they're now able to reopen their cities because, the president is no longer in office. President Donald John Trump is no longer there. It's not a win for him if these cities open up. So that's what they're going to do. But, speaking of Gavin Newsom, he's his own worst enemy because he's a hardcore leftist and California's politics trend in that direction. But he has taken some extraordinary steps to alienate himself from the people that he's governing. And this recall petition is a perfect example of that. So I hope it prevails because he's not a good governor for the great state of California. The people there, whether they're on the left or the right, need someone who cares about them as people and doesn't see them as his subjects. And he's got a real problem with that. And I'm hoping that the recall petition will elucidate that for him.
Hey, Mark, quick question. I know you did a focus group with Trump voters a week ago. Did you ask by chance, and this is random, but did you ask if they still think that Mitch McConnell is the leader of the Republican Party? Basically, people that are still elected, excluding Trump?
Yeah. I asked them if they thought Mitch McConnell was a moderate or a conservative, and 7 of the 8 said moderate, and they felt quite strongly about it. So Mitch McConnell is clearly the most powerful Republican in Washington now, but he's going to have to decide, not just in navigating impeachment and the trial, but Biden's legislative agenda, the president's legislative agenda. Where is he see the future for himself or the Republican Party? And of course, he's thinking about the midterm elections and how to figure out how to position the party. So really interesting to watch, but there's no doubt that his actions around the election and around impeachment have changed the view that at least some conservatives have about Mitch McConnell.
Betsy, thank you, Mark. Betsy, it seems like McConnell, with voters at least, is not going to be very popular. You move forward with this impeachment that does nothing but divide, but it seems like Mitch McConnell, at least for the Republicans, wants to make sure that Donald Trump can't run again in 4 years.
He's really marking himself for what many people knew he was, which is a typical swamp creature, more committed to his own political career than to really representing the people. And you're right, he's going to lose a lot of Republican support. I just wanted to weigh in on the Gavin Newsom thing for a minute and point out that one reason Gavin Newsom is so unpopular in California is California ranks dead last of all 50 states in its ability to get those vaccines into people's arms. And no matter what your political party, if you're scared of getting the coronavirus, you want that vaccine. He has totally bungled that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that petition. People keep signing it, and it's becoming more and more serious. Panel, we got to leave it there. We'll have you guys back in just a few minutes. Stay